Hi, Kesha.
How are
Oh,
you?
good. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm getting a funny echo, but I think that, huh?
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, but I'm also hearing an echo of myself.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Is
Let
it
me,
okay?
let me, go. Should I go away and come back? No, I think we're good.
I think we're fine. Yeah, hold on, let me
Are
just.
you on a computer?
No, I'm on my iPad.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, it should work. Now, I have a question for you because I know that you have a lot of oh, perfect. Thank you so much for that feedback. No echo.
Okay.
Um, so we'll keep the commenting on, and I know that you have a lot of really engaged followers who love to ask questions and love
Yeah.
to chat with you. But here's my question. What do you think about turning the comments off and then turning them back on? Because sometimes if it hides your face, that's no good.
It's totally up to you. This is your thing. Yeah, whatever you decide is totally fine.
Okay. Well, you are the pro, so let's wait for a moment longer.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, it's hot here because my glasses are fogging up. And that's even without a mask.
Yes. Oh, the mask. That's a whole nother story. Oh
I
my
know.
goodness.
And something of a fashion statement that also causes me some anxiety at this point.
I know. I know. Yeah.
So,
Very true. Very
you
true.
know,
It's been
but
giving me a bit of a migraine lately, actually, wearing them out to and from, project sites and the 90-degree weather, which I normally absolutely love. I love the hot summers, but with the mask on, it's not been that much fun.
I know it's hard, but it's good that, it's good one has to wear them. That's
Yes.
the
Yes.
important thing.
Yes.
And also, it's kind of amazing that you have been out and about already. So
Yeah.
I'm
Now
really
it's
pulled up here.
yeah, yeah. It's been, a while that clients are just like, listen, we're able to have access into our homes and into our condo units. And so the calls came rushing in the minute, the world somewhat opened up. And now, as you see, a lot of that is being retracted. So I'm actually trying to get some really key things that I want to get done in a few of my projects, just in case we do get told that we have to, close up shop again. So yeah, I've been hustling. I
Yeah,
have been busy. Yeah. I've been
seizing the
busy.
moment.
Yes.
I
Yes.
see my mother just joined. That is great.
Oh, hi,
Hi.
Mom. Oh,
Ah,
I love that.
I love that too.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Raymond. Hi,
Hi,
Raymond.
Raymond. Yes.
Hi.
Awesome.
And okay, great. Well, I think let's get started. I am going to turn off the commenting because I like seeing you, and then we'll turn it
Okay.
back on
All right. Awesome.
if I
Hi,
can manage
Bree.
them.
Yeah.
All right.
That's my
Turn
daughter.
off
Your mom is on my
question.
daughter joint.
I love it. A family affair, and we will
Yes.
get to that.
Yes.
So.
For sure.
All right, well, let's get started, everyone. Thank you so much. Welcome to Interiors Academy. We are a hub for conversations that connect and, sorry, I'm glasses.
No. Okay.
Connect and support the Global Interiors Network through an online series of talks and films. And I am Sabine Rothman, one of the co-founders. Thank you all for tuning in, and thank you to Kesha Franklin of Halden Interiors, our guest today. So, I know you've been on the run, so thank you for joining us.
No problem.
So I'll quickly introduce Kesha, and then we will get to your story.
Okay.
So Kesha is a former fashion stylist and event producer whose work has been featured in Elle Decor's House Tour, Dwell Magazine, NBC's Open House, and AD Pro, and you were named one of the stars on the rise at the D&D's most recent award ceremony, which was very fun, very glamorous. And speaking of glamour, your interiors are glamorous. They're modern, they're functional, and shaped by your eye for, I would say, color, detail, and the connection that you have with your clients, which seems quite special. So I want to get Kesha to tell us about her trajectory in her own words. So Kesha, tell us, how did you start working as an interior designer, and how has your business evolved?
So, I've shared this a few times before. I had no intention of being a part of this industry. It was all very much by divine intervention. I was working on a commercial project. My husband and I had embarked on a business venture to open up a bar lounge downtown Brooklyn near the Barclays Center. And in designing that space and pulling it all together, which was a huge endeavor, it was a 4-story building. We were managing a crew of like 18 to 30 people, craftsmen, engineers, architects, and unfortunately, 3 years into it, because it was a ground up project, just couldn't get it off the ground, just couldn't make it happen. Probably some inexperience, stretching out resources. And so long story short, it wasn't until after it was, we decided to kind of close up shop that the architect that I worked with on the project came to me and said, have you ever thought about getting into interior design or architecture? He's like, you had a great sense of style. You knew what you wanted. He's like, I really can't take full credit for this design. You knew what you wanted, and you were very, your influence in it was strong. And so I had no clue that actually was happening during that time. I was just, putting my thoughts and my ideas on the table. I knew what I wanted to see. I knew how I wanted the space to feel and to function. And so when he shared this with me, I was actually very taken aback. I was totally taken off guard. But then he shared with me the portfolio on his computer screen in his office. And for the first time, I was looking at what we had produced together from kind of a spectator's viewpoint versus me being completely hands-on with the project. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is pretty good. And this is what was in my head all this time. And so, I went home with what he suggested to me, and this huge compliment that he had given me, and shared it with my husband and kind of just put it on the nightstand. I was like, okay, whatever. Me and I know anything about. But couple months went by. Oh, I see you. Are you frozen, or can you still hear me?
Something. For
Okay.
me, you're frozen. So I think if we just give it a second, we might be back.
Yeah, we can hear you. Oh, there we go. Do you have me now?
Okay. Now I do.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So yeah. So basically, I decided to take a leap of faith and created my interior design firm from this failed business. The name of the lounge and restaurant was called Beautiful. And so when I started the design firm, I named it The Beautiful Experience. And so, yeah, I set out just doing work for friends and family members. And from there, it took off pretty quickly. My circle found it very they were sure. They were like, of course you're an interior designer. Like, look at your home and look at the things that you've done in your event world. And so it completely made sense to everyone, even though it was really kind of a scary thing for me, walking into the unknown of the industry. But, of course, the recession hit and things kind of took a bit of, I won't say a dive because I had really just started out. But I think that time actually allowed me to do a lot of research. I took some online courses. I read a lot of books, and I was able to really kind of educate myself on the business and learning more of, I guess, the language of interior design. And that time actually was very helpful. So when 2010 rolled around, I actually was ready to go and got a couple of, pretty big projects during that time. And it's been nothing but uphill since then. I joined or took, I should say, the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program in 2014. And that actually is really what kind of changed the course of my career. I think prior to that, I was just doing interior design. I was, approaching it from this kind of like, you want to hire me? Oh my God, that's great. Whatever you want, I'll do a corner of your room or, a little tiny powder room, whatever you want. But when I took this program with Goldman Sachs, they actually showed me that I had a real viable business. They made me look at profitability. They made me focus in more on the structure of my business. Who was my target market? What did I want that client to look like? What experience did I really want to give? And so with all of that wealth of information, I rebranded and renamed the company Halden Interiors. So from, I would say, 2007 to 2014, it was the beautiful experience. And in 2015, I officially renamed to Halden Interiors. And yeah, it's been an amazing journey.
It's great. And how has that sort of changed the kinds of projects you're taking on and how you approach them?
So it changed because of that question, who was my dream client or who was my target client versus waiting for the client to come to me. And so I knew that I wanted to service a luxury market or, a high-end market, just my own personal preferences of interior design, ways in which I like to experience life. I just did what actually came very natural to me, but wasn't thinking of it like that because I felt like before, again, I always approached what I was doing in a very timid way, to be very honest with you. I don't think I was really owning it. And now with the tools that I got in Goldman Sachs, I truly became an interior designer. And with that, I went out and marketed my business in such a way that it attracted the clientele that I wanted to service. And so that actually created a huge change. And I realized that I had been waiting too long because, again, just like when I first started out, how people really felt like, yes, this is who you are, this is what you do, we totally see this. It was the same thing once I started to target that particular clientele. The clients came and the larger projects came that, I'm very proud to have been able to work on.
So I'm excited, and there's sort of two things I want to talk about in terms of the branding and how that affected your client base and also how you present yourself. But I think let's just sort of start with you've had some pretty great clients, some celebrity clients, dare I say. I wonder if we could talk about some of those projects.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked on, which I think one of the more popular ones that have circulated out there. I've had the pleasure of working with Colin Kaepernick. I've actually done 2 of his homes. I've also worked with Amari Stoudemire. I don't know how many people also know of Steven Espinosa, who is like the VP of Showtime Sports. So and that's been really awesome to work with those individuals and, create spaces for themselves and for their families that they've been able to really enjoy and love. And also quite the experience, because dealing with, I guess, a celebrity client is very different. Sometimes some of the work you're able to show and talk about, sometimes there are confidentialities with that and you're not always able to put it out there. So I've learned a lot with those particular projects and how to navigate their particular needs and interests, as well as just, as a designer, wanting to always showcase the work and put it out there. But the experiences with all of them has always been really, really great and very supportive. So I'm appreciative of that.
That's great. And I imagine that when you're sort of, a text is coming in. I thought I put my phone on Do Not Disturb.
No, it's okay.
I'm back.
Okay.
So, and I imagine for someone who is in the public eye, it's incredibly important to have your private space feel supportive and enveloping and really be what you want it to be. And
Agreed.
I know that you really talk to people in a very in a way where you kind of get inside what they need, what they want.
Yeah.
And we'll get back to that. But I
Okay.
wanted to sort of also say, speaking of the branding, you also have kind of, I want to do a short side tack because you have been developing an amazing series of Instagram live talks. And I wondered how you decided to do that, because you're really you're amazing in front of the camera. I wondered, had you done it before? And also how you choose your guests, because you have had very amazing people. You've had interesting people, musician Questlove, Victor Cruz, Kidron Bryant, the young man whose song I Just Want to Live has gone viral.
Yes.
So moving. And you've talked with experts about wellness and also movingly brought your family into the conversation too. So I think one question is sort of what engages you with the person? What interests you about people, and how do you engage with them?
Well, well, to answer your first part, when, we all got to stay at home, I had a huge lineup of some amazing marketing opportunities that I was going to be a part of for 2020. 2020 for me was going to be my year of, some rebranding. I actually had some rebranding just to kind of update and refresh Halden, and also, marketing, putting myself out there, getting more eyes on the business. And so when COVID-19 hit, all of that, of course, came to a halt. I was supposed to do the Hampton Show House this year. I was planning to do that. I was also one of the designers for the Lenox Hill Spring Gala. So some really cool things were on the calendar. And when that didn't happen, I got together with my team and we said, well, what can we still do? What can I still do to engage, to bring some eyes on Halden Interiors? And so when I realized that folks were doing the live, I said, you know what, well, maybe I could try that. Maybe that's something that could be cool to still talk about the different things that, that we're doing, interested in. And so initially it was really just about design. And that was going to be the focus, me sharing a lot of what I do, how I do it, and kind of giving a peek into the interior design process. But once I started it, I think because of it being such a trying time, I think people, yes, information was great to receive, but I think people wanted to connect. We weren't connecting anymore, we weren't able to see people, we weren't able to engage. And so I just kind of met that need and opened up the platform that I was creating to just engage with people. And so part of it was, yes, if you watch the lives, I do touch on questions relating to interior design, and I'll ask about, how my guest is living at home and things that they may now see since they're being forced to maybe work at home or teach their children from home, how their homes could best work for them. So we did touch on some of those things, but outside of that, I just wanted to connect with people. I think for myself as well, I was also feeling that void as a people person. I was feeling the void and wanted to just connect. And I think it got great reviews and feedback. People loved it. And also to see individuals like a Victor Cruz or Questlove give a more personal approach. As far as selecting these individuals, I do know them. My husband is in the entertainment industry, and so these are folks that, we have, relationships with. And so just kind of called them up and was like, hey, you know, you want to come talk and join in on the live? And they were very gracious and willing to share. And so I appreciated that, because normally you'll see those individuals on TV kind of in a different role where they're entertaining, right? They're entertaining the audience. But I think being able to just ask real one-on-one questions and get a deeper inside view of who they are just as people, I think folks really appreciated that, and I enjoyed sharing them with everyone in that way.
Well, it's really wonderful, and I think it really also segues into your design process, which I want to talk about. I want to talk about your point of view, materials, colors, details, and then also how you draw out from a client what it is they need.
Okay, yeah. So, well, point of view, you know, I really have to sit with this. Sometimes when I feel a little embarrassed that I don't have some elegant words to just spew out and say, yes, you know, this is the type of design that I do, and my point of view is X, Y, and Z. But I think because of how I started out, again, not having gone to an institution where you're learning about different types of periods of design and approach to design, my process has always been to, one, what speaks to me when I walk into a space, right, that I'm going to design, what the space is saying to me aesthetically, what's happening, and also what it is that my client is looking for their ultimate living experience. And so I've never been able to put a name on that because, or, you know, kind of a tag, because each experience is different, right? So the one thing I can say that is a thread throughout it all is that the approach is definitely more modern and contemporary. And I always love to implement organic elements. I love to connect to nature, you know, wanting to bring in some level of sustainability into the projects. So having those organic elements and finishings, and sometimes it's just in accessories, but that you'll see as just a common thread throughout my work. But overall, I'm looking to create a unique individual experience for each and every project that I work on. So they're kind of hard to just generalize in one phrase.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We've talked about also your dream project, and I think that kind of plays to what you were speaking about. Some things about sustainability, about luxury, about nature. What's your dream project?
So a dream project for me is that I would love to either own or design a boutique hotel. With my background in event management and production, combined now with my experience in interior design, it's just a fitting kind of synergy of worlds for me to produce a project that not only visually I can create a visual experience, but also a tangible experience of how that client is, you know, dwelling in that space for that period of time. So, you know, hotel experiences are one of the favorite things that I actually love to do. It's a big part of the travel for me. I know for some folks, they would prefer to maybe spend money and time on excursions when they're, you know, when they're traveling abroad. But for me and for my husband, we actually love to invest in a beautiful hotel stay, like, you know, or a resort like that. Just being in that environment is a big part of a travel experience for me. So because I know what I want to experience when I'm, you know, staying at a particular location and the accommodations I'd like to have, I just know that that is something that I think I would knock it out the park.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and working towards making that a reality. So, got a couple things in the works, some conversations and things of that nature. But yeah, that would definitely be the dream project for me.
Would be amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I think when you're sort of in worlds where you're so social, working all the time, and as entrepreneurs, there's like a lot of stress really too,
Yeah.
probably some anyway.
Yeah.
That kind of retreat becomes really, really important when you're on vacation as well as at home.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Absolutely.
So I was thinking, and in the current time, our kind of relationship with our home is changing, and I think that we're all seeing it much more as perhaps like a really thinking about our homes as safe spaces. And so I wondered if you might talk a little bit about the shifts you see happening in the way we're living and using our homes right now.
Well, it's funny. I think, if I can be honest, and maybe folks will agree or disagree with me. I think when we first got to stay at home, everyone was, really focused on how can I make my living experience better? How can I figure out how to make it function as far as the work at home, and also, having the children at home, and what do you need to implement to make sure that they're being, having their school experience, as well as also just playtime, because, before you could take the kids outside and do different things, but now the home had to also not only function for things that you would normally do inside, but also how do you implement some outside activities now, bringing those inside as well. And so I think there was this immense, kind of thought process of how to figure out how to make the home these multi-purposeful experiences that we needed to function and also to relax in. Now, I think folks are feeling like, I want to get out of home,
Yeah.
right? I think as much as those points are still important, I find that people are like, okay, now I'm just tired of looking at these four walls. I'm tired of being in the space. I'm tired of the same experience over and over. So it's a tricky thing to now, as a designer, to come in and not only make the home functional, but what I'm finding, and things that I'm trying to approach my current projects, and actually a couple projects that I've now even gotten through COVID, which has been great. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Is how do we make it fun? How do we make it interesting? How can it be interchangeable, right? So that it doesn't feel mundane and the same day in, day out. And, I'm still trying to process all of that in exploring what that looks like with the current clients that I'm, wrapping up projects with, where we're now making a couple changes because of COVID and because of the stay at home. And then especially approaching this new thought process with the new projects. Because I think outside of the function, with the fact that this seems like it's going to go on much longer than we all would like for it to have to go on, I think it's really going to be important to create a visually stimulating environment. I think stimulation is going to be really important, so that we are not feeling trapped, because I don't care how beautiful your space is, right? Or how functional it is. If you're experiencing the same space day in, day out, day in for months on end, it's going to get to you, So again, trying to find out that word, kind of interchangeable, right? So really trying to process what that can look like and feel like moving forward in this new way of living that we're approaching.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting, because I think so many people have sort of talked about the home as a kind of quiet retreat, and to talk about it, to turn it into a space of vitality, because that's the place where you're going to be, I think is really exciting.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting, because I think in this period, there have been some sections to the lockdown, right? There's sort of the totally COVID focused moment at the beginning. Yeah. And then we had a shift with, the growing racial and social justice movement.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting because we're really, the way we're navigating our experience of the outside world while we're inside
Yeah.
has really changed a lot. It's a complicated time, I think.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's ever changing. One day you're hearing one thing, it's okay to go outside. Then now we're getting all these spikes across the world. And so that starts to make you feel nervous again. You know, we were also happy to just get out and start to engage in some way. And now people are starting to feel like, okay, did I start too soon? You know, do I need to now go back to the complete stay at home? And then also it's beautiful outside. It's summertime, right? And so it really is a day-to-day kind of, you have to be flexible, I guess I should say, within what you can and can't do in your home, and think outside of the box. I think if you have a home or a property where you have outdoor space and you have multiple rooms, then hi Sheila.
Hi Sheila.
Then I think it's great, and I think you have more flexibility, but not everyone has, you know, a home environment that fits checks all those boxes. So if you're in a smaller space, you're in an apartment, I think you have to get creative. And I think vitality, as you mentioned, and stimulation is definitely where it's at. You know, and I think maybe for the summer, it could be some of that. And then maybe when fall comes, then you have to go back to it being heavily into functionality, because now kids are back to school and maybe your work routine is more stringent. So I think they have to be flexible with these times. And again, that word, interchange your living environment so that it can meet these different seasons, let's say, right, so to speak, and what is happening and what the need is during these different times in our lives. So yeah, but don't worry, when I lock it in, I'm going to share it. I'm going to share what that interchangeable interior experience really looks and feels like. But I think it's doable, and I think it's what we have to do so that, again, we don't feel like we're losing it. Because when you turn on the news, they are kind of implementing again, you know, the stay at home, like start staying at home. And I think we're all like, no, like I've had 5 months in the house, 4 months in the house, I want to get outside. But if what is needed is that we do need to be at home, then what do we need to do inside to have that same excitement and stimulation that we would get if we were outdoors gathering with friends and loved ones?
I think so. I was going to ask you sort of what changes do you think the interiors industry should be making in response to the current moment? And I mean, to me, what you're saying is really like looking carefully at all the tools at our disposal, looking inside, looking around, and
Yeah.
I think making some changes.
Yeah. You know, I think that the different industries, manufacturers, need to, you know, probably take inventory of maybe connecting with designers like myself to say, well, what are you seeing as the need within the home? Because it is changing. And again, that kind of standard point of view may not be what's to come for 2021 and beyond. And I think this time now, I think connecting with manufacturers, builders, creatives, creators, makers, it's important for us to collaborate so that we can meet those needs of those, you know, homeowners, and what it is now to really have home be this multifunctional space. Before, again, like you said, home would be just a retreat because we were outside and dealing with life outside. And so home was this place to kind of get away from all of that. But now if we need to bring some of that in, what does that look like for the industry, you know, from a manufacturing standpoint? And so that's a big question, and lots of different, you know, points that's in that. And I think it can be done but part of it will be that those manufacturers need to start to connect and collaborate with designers so that we can fulfill the needs for the different individuals and how they need to dwell at home. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking to see if we have, I thought I had turned off the questions, but
No,
I
it's
hadn't
fine.
really, apparently.
Yes, no,
So.
that's fine.
So I was just going to look to see if there were any, but I feel like you have been answering them all the way along.
Janitra was just saying that you might as well have a space that you're excited about being in. And I mean, and that's common. I mean, when you're, you know, as a designer, I always want my clients to feel excited about the space that I have created for them. But I think this goes a little bit deeper, what's happening right now. Again, it needs to be a transformative space to meet the different needs at different times. And so that's a different approach than it just being beautiful and just having beautiful furnishings. You know, yesterday on my live, I was talking about lighting, and even something like that, I talked about just how lighting impacts your mood, right? Whether, you know, if you have a space that doesn't have sufficient lighting, that alone can in fact impact your mood. And now normally people live like that all the time. There's so many, I was talking about the void of synthetic lighting in these new constructions. They just don't put them in there, and it's crazy. And I don't understand why that is. But now with people dealing with depression, being stuck at home, I think that something as simple as lighting is huge. Being able to just have the right light source, to just be able to see, to be able to just create energy within that home is critical, is super critical. Because when you think about depression, you think about gloom, even the gloominess that's happening around me right now, because it's such a cloudy day, but even what you're experiencing with me is different than this kind of ray of sunlight that's coming in on you, Sabine. I mean, this alone, with this natural light that we're dealing with right now, is a key, you know, indication of just how it looks visually, also just how you could think how it impacts you emotionally. So I think it's definitely things like that that need to be addressed and talked about. So even something that just popped in my head, right? What type of synthetic lighting can feel like there's sunlight in your home? Something just as simple as that, just to feel that type of exterior outdoor energy for someone who's in an apartment that doesn't have the good natural, you know, outside source of light. Just something that simple could really make a difference, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've always picked apartments based on their light. So
there you go.
I'm with you on that.
There you go.
Yeah. And I think that brings me to sort of my last question, which basically you have been answering all along, but why is design worth it?
Oh, it's so worth it. You know, it's like we talk about this through different amongst colleagues, and it's like, well, why do you go to a doctor, right? Well, because that doctor is an expert in what he does, in understanding your health and well-being. And it's the same thing for an interior designer, right? We have been trained. Our approach to the way we think about home is intentional. And so if that's not your natural way of thinking or approaching your home, then yes, consulting or hiring a designer is only going to enhance your home living experience. And again, going back to the current time and state in which we're in, I think it's even more important. And I have been sharing that with folks. Even if you can't afford to hire a designer, definitely invest in consulting with one during a time like this, because I think it is critical for us to pay more attention to the experience that we're having at home, not just from a visual standpoint, but from a place of function. You know, the form and function is critical at this time. And yeah, I mean, who doesn't want a beautiful space that looks like it just got walked off the page of Elle Decor or Architectural Digest, right? So it's, yeah, you know, definitely, I think interior design is extremely important right now the home living experience is very critical. And I think everyone should invest in it, big or small.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I could not agree more. Thank
Awesome.
you so much.
You're welcome. You're
Well,
welcome.
we have one quick question,
Yeah.
which is maybe not a quick question, but maybe we'll answer. Susanna has asked, do you think the new norm of social distancing will create a new standard of larger spaces and change the ideal dimensions for interior spaces?
Are we talking about for like homes or like exterior, like outside gatherings and functions? I'm assuming, does it say the way? Well, I'll answer both. Yes, I'm seeing it even when I'm driving around in my neighborhood. There are a lot of restaurants near me, and restaurants that used to be really small have now expanded to their parking lots. And now they have the parking lots are tented, and now the square footage, you know, where maybe the restaurant was 3,000 square feet, now you're talking double that. It's like 6,000 square foot usage of their parking garage or parking lot, where now they're able to accommodate, you know, the proper social distancing. So yes, I do think that spaces are going to increase in size to accommodate for let's say functions and social gatherings. That I definitely see. Or like what I know is happening now, people will just condense the amount of people that they can accommodate in those spaces. That's what will happen. So for instance, you know, my husband and I are looking to, you know, we're looking to celebrate our 20th wedding anniversary coming up in 2 weeks. Thank you. And we did inquire about a local venue to see if we could do a small gathering there. And now this particular place held 300 people, but they were allowing 25% capacity. So in a place that accommodated 300, they were only now accommodating 50 guests. So it would, which now with only 50 guests in that room, that has now become a larger space, a much larger space. So I think the answer to that question is yes. Just either where now the amount of accommodation in a large space will decrease, or there will be investments in just creating larger social spaces so that people can gather with the 6-foot distance. Yeah, I do believe so.
Well, and I think that goes back to your sort of final thoughts, which were about hiring a designer. And I think designers, design thinking are essential to making spaces work in this new world.
Mm-hmm.
So
100%.
consult, hire, enjoy,
Yes.
delight, and design.
Agreed. I think it is important. And I think the live has also, in sharing like what you're doing, Sabine, with me and with other interior designers and creatives within the industry, I think are also giving people a viewpoint that they didn't always had. Usually through social media and different marketing outlets, it's all about visuals and it's pretty pictures. And so it can be intimidating because, you know, that said homeowner or potential client doesn't necessarily know what goes into that. They don't always understand the deeper layer to that process. They're just looking at, oh, it's a gorgeous couch and beautiful piece of art. But now with being able to share, and why I love to just share, you know, the information that I have, I think folks are starting to think about the process differently. They're understanding that there is health and wellness in design, in interior design. It isn't just about pretty furnishings that, you know, have a big price tag to it. There is a process, there is a connectivity, there is an understanding, beyond the form, beyond the form, the function is also very important and implemented sometimes first to make sure that this home is serving the purpose that you need it to serve. So I think providing this type of information has become extremely important and I think very helpful to the designer as well as a potential client. So this, I think, is opening up a lot of access on both sides, on both sides. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you. Thank you so
No
much.
problem.
Thank you for your time. Thank you to
I
everyone
appreciate
tuning
it.
in for their time. And check out Kesha's work at Halden Interiors on haldeninteriors.com, and keep visiting us at Interiors Academy. We look
Yes.
forward to sharing more.
Awesome. Thanks, Sabine. This was awesome. I appreciate you
Thank
thinking
you.
of me for this. Thank you so much.
Oh,
And
it's
hi,
such a pleasure.
everyone.
You're an inspiration and a pleasure to talk to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye, everyone. Have
Bye,
a great
everyone.
day.
You too.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.